gain the Indian students will have, apart from, I mean, having the curriculum on foreign universities pattern, like like a lot of students are migrating to other countries. So what the
Mhm.
colleges, if they establish here itself, the migration may stop, I think so. And
Yeah,
students may not get, sir,
yeah.
probably
I
you
think
might have got my point, sir.
yes, yes. I got your point. I think that is partly correct. What you are saying and your assertion. I think it's a two-way thing. First of all,
Sir.
Please wait for 2-3 minutes. I think some network problem he had. I think his internet, I just called him, Professor Badrul Alam, his internet is down. So he's connecting again and coming back.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, we can hear, sir. We can hear you.
I'm very sorry about that. It's because suddenly the technical issues was there, like the internet got down. Okay, so can I proceed now?
Yes, sir, please go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Everybody asked me a question, so I'm putting pause. So let me finish. Okay, and once I'm done, okay, I'll pick up. Title is Canada, Politics and Society. Today, second class. This is as part of the MEMID Master's programs in Migration and Diaspora Study by IGNO. In the class, we discussed about a recap of life, and then we jump to base class. Unit 1, we talked about settler society and the staples economy.
Sir, not able to hear.
Am I audible now? Am I audible?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. I think there are some problems on okay, so anyway, if there is any problem, please let me know. All right. Anyway, so very quickly, Canada was a huge country. In fact, this is the second largest country in the world in terms of area, apart from then or the Rasa now. Historical evolution, how it was a settler colony of French and England. Canada attaining the Dominion status first, and then becoming an independent colony, 1867 all the way upwards. Transition of Canada from a regional habitat. There is significant amount of Canadian Indians, the native Indians in Canada. Hello, am I audible now?
No, sir, there is some problem, sir.
Yeah, I think. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible? Can you repeat?
You're audible, but it is your audio is pretty choppy. You can hear in and out.
What? Yeah, it should be an alternative. Just a minute. Just a minute. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You're audible.
Just a minute. Okay. Am I audible? Is it clear now?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm really sorry because I'm not very savvy in technical matters. So I'm basically requesting my son to help me. Anyway, so I think in the first class, we discussed about the geography, the historical evolution, the demography of Canada, which is a huge country, as I said, consisting of 10 long, big provinces along the 3 territories, the nature of society, the economy, the culture, etc. It became a settler colony of French and English and colony of Great Britain for a long time. Afterward, after 1867, it attained the dominion status, which ultimately led to a formal independence of Great Britain, from Great Britain, the largest country in the Western Hemisphere. And as I said before, it's the second largest country in the world in terms of the territories. They have a constitutional monarchy, so technically, de facto, de jure, the king of England, for example, currently King Charles is the king of England. He is the head of state in Canada, but he doesn't go literally in a physical sense. He's represented in Ottawa, in the Canadian federal capital, by the Governor General, who is the head of state in Canada. So they have a constitutional monarchy, you can say. They also have a prime minister. And also in the provinces, they also have individual leaders. The head of the provinces are called premiers in Canada. There are 2 official languages in Canada. One is, of course, English. The other one is French. And in fact, if you would like to migrate to Canada or immigrate to Canada or looking for a job or opportunities, I think it is always helpful, and it really helps if a person can speak, read and write both French as well as English. It is a long history. 7 regions: Pacific Coast, Cordella, the Prairies, the Canadian Shield, the Great Lake areas, St. Lawrence, Atlantic provinces, Appalachian region, the Arctic, all of these areas, it constitutes Canada. 10 provinces, Newfoundland, Labrador, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Islands, Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, British Columbia, etc. The 3 territories which are there in the on the western side and the northwest are Northwest Territories, Yukon Territory, and Nunavut things. And mostly the Canadian Indians, they live there. Although the number is pretty small, like 3% of Canadian population are from the Canadian native indigenous population, the Aboriginal tribes, but still they have got some special distinctive advantages. They have got some jobs reserved for those people. There is westward expansion in British Columbia and Yukon territories. Initially, Canada was a kind of a monocultural society in this form of the British Anglophone kind of things, but later on it became a bicultural things, Anglophone and Francophone, the dominance of British as well as the French, particularly in the province of Quebec. Later on from 1970s onwards, 1980s, 1990s, with the increasing flow of immigrants to Canada and with a larger base of diasporic population, now we have got a multicultural. So there has been a big transition from a monocultural or unicultural society to a bicultural society to a multicultural societies over a period of time. The economy and the culture, grain, oilseed, vegetables, meat, dairy product, wheat, barley, horticulture, they produce a lot of things, and mostly it goes to US and many other places. You must have read in the newspaper a couple of, just very recently, when President Trump wanted to impose tariffs or the duties on Canadian product coming to US. So Canada also tried to retaliate by imposing tariffs on the American products coming to Canada. So Canada also does a lot of things in terms of the agricultural output, etc. In terms of pulp, in terms of paper, the newspaper, for example, the newspaper print Canada produces literally 48% in the world, which is one of the highest. In terms of the minerals, they have a sufficient amount of minerals of different varieties: zinc, potash, uranium, asbestos, silver, titanium, nickel, gold, lead, copper, iron, plutonium, literally you name it, and they have it, asbestos, etc. Canada is the 7th largest in the world in terms of GDP.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Sir,
Yes.
a humble submission, please. Little slow, sir, if it is possible.
Okay. Canada is the 7th in terms of GDP, gross domestic product, the largest trade partner with the United States. Automotive sectors, mining sectors, they have machineries, transportation. Canada also has a widespread trade, commercial, economic relations with the rest of the world, starting with the United States, with Mexico. They are also part of the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA. Canada and EU, Canada and NATO countries, Canada and China, Canada, ASEAN, Canada, India. So basically, Canada has a robust relations in terms of trade, in commerce, in economic things, with virtually all the different countries, particularly with countries in North America, with South America, with Caribbeans, because there is a significant amount of diasporic population in Caribbean countries living and residing in Canada. In Canada, Unit 2, we talk about the British North American Act of 1867, the Constitutional Act of 1982, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, different political parties, how they have also enriched the Canadian federal systems. It was adopted mostly by the Parliament of Westminster with the 3 colonies. Canada officially ceased to be a British colony through the Statute of Westminster, and I emphasized on that one in my last class, in 1931. But in a formal sense, the Parliament of England entrusted the entire power to Parliament of Canada in 1982. Constitution of Canada establishes a federal system, a parliamentary government, a liberal democracy. So whatever things you see in a liberal democracy, for example, you also see that in Canada. For example, the guaranteeing the rights and freedom to the citizens, the rule of law, respect for the minorities, for the indigenous people, the Aboriginal tribes, etc., etc. The Charter of Rights and Freedoms Act of 1982, it expanded the sphere and the scope and the base of the rights, fundamental freedoms, democratic rights, mobility, moving from one province to another. For example, if you're moving from Ontario to Quebec, to Manitoba, to Nova Scotia, to Alberta, whatever. Okay, legal rights that people enjoy in Canada, equality rights across race, sex, gender, national origin, etc. The official language rights, the minority rights, education rights, and protection of Aboriginal tribes. particularly people living in the Northwest Territories, in Yukon and also Nunavut. Supremacy of the Constitution, a multi-party systems, the Liberal Party, the Progressive Conservative parties, New Democratic Party, NDP, the Green parties, the Party Quebec. So there are many other small minor parties also. Independence of judiciary. Canada, as I've said at the outset, it is not a republic. It is a constitutional monarchy. The King of England is titular head of state of Canada, and he sends the Governor General. He appoints the Governor General, who acts while sitting there in the provincial parliament in the capital in Ottawa, in Canada. There are in the legislative branch of Canada, there are two branches. One is the upper house, which is the Senate, and the lower house, which is the House of Commons. In the Senate, there are 105 members, and in the House, there are 338 members. So altogether, there are 543 members of the Parliament, consisting of both the houses, Senate as well as in the House. There is inclusion of the charters. Currently, as you know, after Justin Trudeau resigned a few weeks ago in Canada from the Liberal Party, there is a new leader in Liberal Party who is now the Prime Minister. This month, on 28th of April, there is going to be an election, and we'll know who wins, the Liberals or the Conservatives or NDP, but nobody wins. Rather, it is going to be a coalition government. Currently, Mark Carney from the Liberal Party, he is the Prime Minister. So in the election that will take place in a few days' time, we will get to know as to who is going to win in Canada and going to be there for 5 years. Just like in India, whoever wins in the Lok Sabha election in the lower house of the Indian Parliament, that particular leader becomes the Prime Minister and stays there for 5 years as per the Constitution. Unit 4, Federalism, Intergovernmental Relations and Fiscal Federalism. Canada, although it is a very centralized kind of federation, most of the powers are concentrated in this center, particularly important powers. But still, I think it is considered to be a role model. Canada is considered to be an icon in federal forms of government. So whenever there is any discussion about federal form of government anywhere in the world, most of the people, when they frame any constitution, they look at Canada as a template, as an example of a federal politics. I know it firsthand because I remember in the aftermath of the end of monarchy in Nepal, I was part of this constitutional making process in Nepal, and we looked at two different drafts, particularly how to make it a more federal type. We looked at Australian model, looked at Canadian models, American models, French models, and also Indian models. So Canadian model is also very ideal, and different countries also, they tried to adjust and adapt their constitutions, their country's constitutional framework in and around the things that suit them the most. It's a strong parliamentary institution, decentralized federal governance. So from a strong parliamentary things, in the last couple of years and decades, it has become a little bit more decentralized kind of things. Because of the Quebec nationalism, that was a big issue in the 1970s and 80s. Mostly, I think there has been this acceleration or tendency toward decentralization. In Canada, there are a lot of the big cities. I think you know probably a lot. Like you go to British Columbia, Vancouver is a big city. Edmonton, Alberta is a big city. Calgary, Alberta is a big one. Toronto is a big city. Montreal in Quebec is a big city. Halifax, Winnipeg. So I'm just giving you some of the names, and all these big cities, they have city governments. They have got a huge budget, and they also take care of the needs that the city takes care of. Just like in Delhi, we have got Delhi and NCR, which is a huge area. So in Toronto, for example, it is not only the downtown Toronto, which is a huge area, but we are also talking about the greater metropolitan Toronto, greater metropolitan Vancouver, etc., etc. So they have the city government, which is very powerful. But Canada also has a significant amount of rural areas. You go to places like New Brunswick, you go to British Columbia, even parts of Alberta, there is a huge rural swath of territories, and they also have the governmental different formations. And not to speak of the Aboriginal tribes in Northwest Territories, in Yukon and Nunavut, they have Aboriginal self-government. They have also instituted. Canada, as I've said, it was a monocultural. Now, currently, it is multicultural and multi-ethnic societies. People literally from every ethnic background, sub-ethnic backgrounds, they live in Canada. There are not many countries in the world which has got an official department of multiculturalism, but Canada is one of that. They have an department of multiculturalism. Despite its centralized constitution, Canada has evolved into one of the most federalized political systems. They have got demarcation of power between the center and the states. Not only you see a division of power between the executive branch and the legislative branch and the judicial branch, but also in terms of the power. Like, for example, if I need to make a compare and contrast with India, we have got a union list, which is basically the center, the federal government, they prevail, the state list, and the concurrent list. In Canada also, they have three kinds of sections. One is the federal government that dominates under Section 91. So please remember this one, Section 91 of the Canadian Constitution, it provides the federal government a complete monopoly, a complete dominance in terms of things like foreign affairs, defense, trade, commerce, transport, communication, banking, currency. I'm just giving you examples. So these are the domain, these are the areas. This is the exclusive turf of the federal government. The federal government decides what is best to do. So for example, last year, the relationship between India and Canada, it went nosedive for a variety of reasons, okay? And the Indian government, they asked the Canadian diplomats to leave Canada, to leave India, okay? And then Canada government also did the reciprocal thing. They also asked the Indian diplomats to leave. So those are all decided by the federal government at the highest level, okay? So those are because it comes within the foreign affairs. Same thing with defense. Let us say, for example, Canada is a member of the NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So whenever there is any discussions regarding what Canada is going to do, how many peacekeeping troops it is going to send, what is its going to be stand on North American security, etc. Particularly, it was a big issue after 9/11, September 11, 2001, the terrorism issues, etc. Trade, commerce, the NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreements, and that was signed between US, Canada, and Mexico. Those are all important decisions taken by the federal government. Similarly, the banking, the currency notes, etc. What is there left for the provincial governments, the 10 different provinces of Canada? I think they are guided by Section 92. So the federal government, it was Section 91 kind of things, foreign affairs, defense, trade, etc. And the provincial governments, they are guided by Section 92, in which they have the leeway, they have the preponderance. Things like natural resources, administration of justice, prison systems, municipalities, hospitals, sale of public lands, local workers. So these are the areas in which the provincial governments has an edge, has a monopoly. Section 92, natural resources, justice, prisons, municipalities, hospitals, sale of public lands, and the local workers. Okay. In terms of education, Section 93 decides what is the best education system. And if there is a conflict between federal government and the provincial government, it is the federal government that prevails. Now, let us move on to concurrent powers. So I told you about the federal government dominance, the provincial government under Section 92. Now the concurrent powers, which are shared, co-shared by both the federal government as well as the state government. That is guided by Section 95. Agriculture, immigration, old age pension systems. So these are the areas in which both the center and the state, they decide. But in case of a dispute or in case of a disagreement, the provincial government prevails. So basically what you are seeing is, it is like a give and take kind of thing. It's like a reciprocal arrangement. In some areas, the federal government, they prevail, like education. But in some areas, the provincial government prevail under the concurrent powers, mostly the pension systems, immigration issues, etc., etc. There are also certain special residual powers given to the federal government, and the distribution of the taxing power, it is guided and shared by both the federal government and the provincial government under Article Section 91 and 92. We have got the pressures of decentralization, particularly the Quebec separatism was a big issue that has been there since the beginning of the 20th century. But in the 1970s and 80s, it was in a more sensitive issue because the people in Quebec in particular, they wanted to speak and keep everything in a French thing. So language was a big touchy sensitive issues, and currently they're enjoying some extra additional powers, particularly in the province of Quebec. If you look at the way the federal system has worked in Canada, I think it has gone through several phases. For example, in phase one, I would call it a quasi-federal, not exactly federal, but quasi. What do you mean by, what do you understand by quasi? Quasi means partly federal, but not exactly. And that was the period between 1867 to 1887, for those 20 years, toward the latter part of the 19th century. In terms of that, the center has the dominance, but at the same time, they had to co-opt, they have to cohabit with the provincial government. So that particular phase of Canada from 1867 to 1887 was the phase of quasi-federalism. Then let us move on to 1896 to 1914, the beginning of World War I. As you all know, the World War I took place from 1914 to 1919. So this particular phase, 1996 to 1914, about roughly 20 years, most of the power was delegated to the provinces. So the provinces were at the driver's seat in this one. So this is a phase two. Then the war took place 1914 to 1919. This phase in Canadian politics is known as emergency federalism, because this is an unusual situation. This is not only a war, this is a world war in which Canada was a part of it, in which United States, the big country on the north, they are also important powers. Okay. Then after the war was over, World War I mean, 1919, again, the power reverted back to the provincial government for the most part. And that continued for about 10 years, 1920 to 1930. Again, 1930 to 1950s and 60s, again, it was back to emergency federalism, because again, there is another world war, the World War II, 1939 to 1945. And then in the 1950s and 60s, what we call it as paternalistic federalism, meaning federalism is there, but they also took care of the social needs of social security, for example, the welfare. If you go to Canada or you discuss, you read anything about Canada in contemporary time, in the last 30, 40 years, the welfare measures, the welfare security, for example, any person going to Canada, one of the reasons why it is an attractive place for the immigrants is because you get social security benefits, you get free health benefits, you get a lot of housing benefits. So a lot of countries, they don't provide that, but Canada is one of the rare countries that take care of the welfare of the people. So that is called in Canadian parlance as paternalistic federalism. Then in the 1980s onwards, again, we see a more cooperative arrangements. You can call it cooperative federalism or a double image federalism, meaning trying to make a balance or trying to develop a synergy or a coordination between Anglophone and Francophone. Ontario, for example, which is the largest province, and in which Toronto is there, Niagara Falls is there, Hamilton is there, Mississauga is there, it is basically Anglophone. People speak, it's a very British influenced culture, people speak English. You just cross, drive few 100 miles, you go to Quebec. The big city is Montreal, okay? There people speak French. So there has been this synergy or this symmetry between Anglophone and Francophone. apart from these federal things, we also, as part of the federal polity in Canada, we have a local self-government. There are close to 5,000 municipalities in different cities and different places in Canada, out of which, in fact, more than 2,000 are based in the two largest provinces of Canada, namely Ontario and Quebec. There are also cities and towns and villages. There are rural municipalities. There are counties. For example, like in Delhi, we call it Municipal Corporation of Delhi, MCD. So they have got counties, single tier, upper tier, etc. They also have their own budget, so they take care of the basically all the needs of the city government, cleaning, pollution, etc. The chapter 5 is public administration. I think in many ways it reflects on and also resembles like what we see here in our country, for example, in India. And there are two official languages. They try to manage everything is translated into two languages, English and in French. So all the official documents are prepared accordingly. Because it is relatively a small country in terms of the population. I mean, it's a huge country in terms of the territories, in terms of the areas, but in terms of population, it is only, I would say, 40 million people. So a fraction of the population of our country in India, but in area-wise, it's a big country. And taking care of the 10 provinces, which I think the size may be larger, but I think the number is pretty much in a reasonable fashion. The Public Service Commission of Canada, just like in India, we have got Union Public Service Commission. They have also a Public Service Commission in Canada, which is based in the capital in Ottawa. They also have follow a Weberian models. Max Weber, you know, he's then father of public administration. The hierarchy systems, you go from bottom up, like as you promotion, etc., etc. Mostly it is done by merit systems. You show, you perform, and then you move up in the ladder and you make upward mobilities in any different ministries, in any particular departments. There is also some special provisions meant for the minorities and also particularly for the Aboriginal tribes, because Canada also, apart from the merit system, they also have got something called affirmative action. That is also there in USA, affirmative action and equal employment opportunities. So if people belong to a particular minorities or like Aboriginal tribes, they do get certain additional advantage. But for the most part, I think it is mostly the merit system that works, and according to the performance. Like there is a saying, either you perform or you perish. So basically merit is being given due credit in that one. Lately, in the last 20, 30 years, particularly after the globalization took into effect, we see more modern type of public administration. For example, e-commerce or e-governance systems. Like in our country, most of the things are done in a digital way, or you can call it digital governance. And this is a part of NPM, which is called New Public Management. So e-governance is a part of that, where justice is being handed out in a very quick fashion and everything is being digitalized. And all particularly the aftermath of ITC, information technology, etc. Managerial approach, there is flexibility, there is permanence, objectivity, neutralities. I think if you compare the different parts of Canada, particularly in terms of the federalism or federal polities, and also in terms of the evolution of political parties, I think we have got a multi-party systems. We have got political ideologies, which is a pragmatic one. We have got a leader-oriented parties. It was a big phenomena in Canada because previously it was mostly the parties that used to prop up the leaders. But today, a leader, it is mostly like a personality-driven. Like you see in authoritarian states, like, let us give you example like Russia, like Putin, or Khrushchev, or Brezhnev. Okay, you go to even in democratic societies like USA, talk about Trump or Biden or Obama or Clinton, Bush, etc. You go to France, Macron, Pompeo, and Sesesco. So we have got all kinds of examples in different places. Okay, so it is leader-oriented things, Trudeau, the father and son, Pierre Trudeau was the Prime Minister of Canada in the 1970s for a long time, and his son was there for last 10 years until very recently, Justin Trudeau. And now Carney is the Prime Minister. So it is mostly according to the leadership, his qualities, his traits. That is also very, very important. And partisan turbulence, it was much more benign, I would say 30, 40 years ago. It was not very testy. But today there is a big gulf or big gap or a divide in terms of the political arena, political agenda, political ideologies. The Liberal Party, which is currently the governing party, they have got their one particular ideologies. And if you look at the Conservative Party, they have a different ways of looking at things. Regulation of politics and fragmentation of politics. Today also, all the political parties, and particularly both in the federal levels as well as in the state level, they are well organized and they are also well funded. And that happens in all the provinces of 10 countries. Okay. And as part of the parties, I told you, they have got multi-party systems, Conservative Party, the Liberal Party, the New Democratic Party, and incidentally, there are a significant number of Indian origin diaspora members of parliament from the New Democratic Party. And most of them happen to be from the Sikh community. And most of them, they happen to be elected from the NDP, New Democratic Party. Currently, the head of the NDP, New Democratic Party, is a person called Jagmeet Singh, and elected from a constituency in British Columbia. So there are quite a number of people elected from from British Columbia, and even in Ontario also. They have also hold important cabinet positions in the last 10, 15 years. So even today also, if you check the cabinet of Canada in the federal government, you will see 3 or 4 or 5 maybe members. In fact, I forgot the name. There was one person who hold the position of defense minister of Canada just a couple of years ago. And he is a person from the Indian, Indo-Canadian diasporic population. Reform Party is there. There are a lot of minor parties. There are pressure groups, interest group, and lobby, which is pretty much legal. So they have catered to different interests in Canada. They promote their particular interests, unlike some other countries where interest groups and lobby groups are kind of a taboo or kind of illegal. But in Canada, in US, and many other countries, it is very much registered. It is very much a part of the entire administrative process in those countries. Also, I think, so basically, I think if I need to summarize chapter 4, 5, 6, I think what we see is, we see in the post-1990s, in the aftermath of post-Cold War, in the era of globalization, privatization, liberalization, the party system is taking shape, particularly in the multi-party systems. It used to be dominance of one or the other. Either liberal used to get a majority or the conservative parties used to get it. But in the last couple of years, we see not one party is being able to get full majority. So they have to take the help of some other people. So currently the Liberal Party, they are having a coalition with NDP, New Democratic Party. So the era of coalition government is very much there, okay? So we don't know. I mean, let us wait and watch how the election turnout is going to be on 28th of April, when Canada is going to have a federal national election. Multi-party system, that is very much there. Ideologically, very pragmatics. I'll give you one quick example of pragmatism across the political divide. The liberals and the conservatives, interestingly, both of them, they oppose the Trump's policy, the current policy of imposing additional tariff on Canadian imports, etc. So both the countries, and particularly both the liberals as well as the conservatives, they're very angry with Trump when Trump said a couple of weeks ago that he would like to absorb Canada into the American Union and make Canada as one of the provinces of USA. USA, as you know, consists of 50 states. And Trump said that he is going to make Canada the 51st state. And that was not acceptable at the highest level in the political parties, both from the Liberal Party as well as the Conservative Party. So this is one example I'm giving you in terms of ideological pragmatism. Similarly, 20, 30 years ago, when the NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, was signed, both the political parties. So the point I'm trying to make is on issues of vital, significant national significance, the major political parties, they have a common stand. They take a common stand. It is leader oriented, as I said. Trudeau was there, Pearson was there, Brian Mulroney was there. So mostly, whoever the leader is very powerful or personality driven, they continue for 10, 15 years. Organized and well funded, relying on socio-ethnic base. One of the reasons why Justin Trudeau had to do certain things which was not of the liking of government of India was because they get support from a sizable Indian diasporic population, so they have to cater to their political approaches. Regionalized in operations. Again, Canada, if you look at the provincial politics, Ontario is different than Quebec. Quebec is different than Newfoundland. Newfoundland is different than New Brunswick, then different from Alberta or British Columbia. So this is, you see an emergence and rise of regionalism. So just like in India, one particular party may be in power in a state like UP, but another party may be in Bengal, another party in Andhra or Tamil Nadu, etc., etc. Same thing in Canada, in all 10 different provinces. So we see a kind of regionalism in operation. Partisan turbulence also is there in different provinces. We also have a parochial interest. Sometimes each state, each provinces, I would say, in Canada, they would like to ask for more funding for some of the pet projects, like, for example, in some of these Aboriginal areas, Northwest Territories, in Yukon, the wildlife issues are very, very significant. So they would like extra federal fundings for those particular needs of those particular areas. Coalition era, I told you how the government lately has become a coalition government instead of a single party dominance, increasing role of pressure groups, interest group, etc. And also we see, I think, another interesting phenomena in political term, in federal polity, as well as in provincial politics, is the rise of social movements. That was not there 30, 40 years ago, but now I think we see more and more. It is reflected in supporting Quebec nationalism. In fact, in the 70s and 80s, there is a ultra-radical group in Quebec. They wanted complete secession. They wanted complete separation. They wanted to make Quebec a separate country. But then after a lot of give and back, a lot of discussions, I think then an arrangement was made to give them sufficient amount of autonomy and leverage. And as part of that, that particular demand for a separate country was subsided. But nevertheless, the Quebec separatist movement has its own followers, the Quebec nationalism, multiculturalism, as I told you, which is also very much evident in literally in all big cities. You go to Vancouver, you go to Toronto, Montreal, you find people from Trinidad, from Jamaica, from Guyana, India, China, Vietnam, Laos, literally every country. So there are significant amount of ethnic population from Bangladesh, Pakistan, literally all countries, they live there. Native people, they are also having an additional incentives under certain guaranteed under the Canadian constitutions. Women, the gender issues are also very, very important. There are a lot of NGOs, a lot of groups. They're also promoting and championing the women rights in different, as part of the, you can say, larger framework of the feminist movements, international peace movements, and there are also movements toward global, to tackle global warming, climate change, towards clean and green technologies. Also in terms of the energy issues, I remember a couple of years ago, I attended a big meeting in Delhi, which was on the importance of the solar alliance, the solar energy, and Canada was also very, very important. So I think all of these things are in Canada, and a lot of things are evolving, a lot of things are dynamic, just like any societies in the world, particularly in a very fast changing geopolitical, geo-economic, geostrategic things. Canada is not an exception. Canada is just like any other countries. There are certain issues which are very intrinsic to Canada. just like as I said, the French, the Quebec nationalism, the language issue, that was a hot button issue in Quebec, and the multicultural issues. There is again one element which is very radical, very provincial, very ethnocentric. Just like in USA, as you see, okay, under Trump, okay, there is a group called MAGA, Make America Great Again. So same thing, Make Canada Great Again. Okay. And there is a group, they say we should conform to the Anglo conformity, to the Anglo-Saxon traditions, make America white again, white dominance kind of things. And there is a backlash against the immigrants. So I think in Canada also, but I think for the most part, I would say Canada is being more accommodative and more receptive in that particular ways. So I think these are some of the things I just wanted to share with you. Any quick questions or comments? Am I audible now? Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm very sorry at the beginning. I think I'm thankful to my son because I'm not very good at this, and somehow the internet got disconnected. So I'm using my mobile phone. Somehow he assisted me. So I think, but anyway, any quick question or anything would like to share before we wrap up today's session? Maybe some of the things, maybe we can continue next Sunday on Canada. So please feel free to take down in a piece of paper anything you would like to ask or anything you would like to make comments on. Okay, so you can begin with that one. Then hopefully.
Just one quick question, sir. That's
Yes.
okay. Just wanted to understand. I don't know whether you touched upon this yesterday, but just wanted to check about Alaska, right? I mean, it was part of Canada. Can you explain like why it was owned by US?
Alaska was part of Russia.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's what I was not knowing. So I just wanted to understand what was the context behind it.
I'm sorry, Alberta. Alberta is a part of Canada. Okay. Alberta. It sounds similar. Alaska is different. Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering about Alaska.
No, I'm glad you talked about Alaska. I remember when I was in New York, okay, 1986, 88, whatever, okay. I applied for a job in the University of Alaska. They did a telephone interviews. It lasted for 1-2 hours. I did not know exactly where Alaska is. He says, if you throw stone, it will hit Russia. Then I thought, am I kidding? Then I looked at the map, and in fact, the border of Russia is so close to Alaska. And then they told me they are going to give me a small glider aeroplane that can have a pilot, and maybe 2 or 3 people can there. And as part of my job, I have to fly above to the deep interior part of Alaska and land in this ice and teach students, the Eskimo Indians, in igloos. Okay, I used to read that when I was in school as a young boy, and they told me that, are you prepared to spend 22 hours night and 2 hours daytime? So then I got the offer and I had to decline that offer in the state of Alaska. Alaska is a place where the night, it's almost dark for 22 hours. You get only sunshine for only 2 hours. So it's very unique. In Alaska. But I'm talking about one of the provinces of Canada. This is not Alaska, this is Alberta. And there are 2 big cities in Alberta, namely Edmonton and Calgary. You must have heard the name, Edmonton and Calgary. Okay?
Sir.
Okay. All right. I think if you have any other question, additional questions or comments or queries, okay, I will be very happy if you can just keep it in a piece of paper, you write it down, okay? And please feel free to ask me at the very beginning of the next class, okay? And we'll try to address that, okay?
Sir.
All right. So thank you so much. Okay. I'm very sorry. And again, I apologize for the technical inconvenience that happened. Okay. These kind of things happen. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.